Marcus Bennett, dressed in an understated gray hoodie, a pair of slightly worn jeans and sneakers, stepped out of his modest SUV and into the parking lot of Elite Autos, a prestigious luxury car dealership in Scottsdale, Arizona. The desert sun reflected off the polished exteriors of the high-end vehicles lined up in front, their gleaming surfaces practically glowing against the shimmering heat. Marcus took a moment to observe the dealership's grand facade before making his way toward the entrance. As the new owner of Elite Autos, Marcus had recently acquired the dealership as part of an expansion of his growing business empire. However, instead of arriving with fanfare or donning a sharp suit that would announce his status, he chose to blend in. His casual attire was deliberate, a way to experience the dealership as an ordinary customer and see how his employees treated people when they didn't know the boss was watching. From outside, Marcus could see a small group of staff gathered near the reception desk, their laughter and casual chatter filtering through the glass doors. With a calm demeanor, he stepped into the showroom, immediately met with the sharp contrast of cool, air-conditioned air and the faint aroma of leather and freshly polished wax. Rows of immaculate cars sparkled under the showroom's bright lights. As Marcus entered, the cheerful atmosphere slightly shifted. He noticed the brief, appraising glances from the staff, their eyes lingering on his hoodie and sneakers. He could sense the subtle change in energy and unspoken judgment that seemed to fill the room. But Marcus wasn't there to make quick assumptions. He was there to observe. Lisa, the dealership's manager, approached Marcus with a polite but guarded smile. Her tailored blazer and sharp heels projected authority, but her scrutinizing gaze revealed her underlying skepticism. As Marcus, dressed in his casual hoodie and sneakers, gestured toward the cars, Lisa's tone carried an edge of doubt. "Are you shopping for a car?" she asked, her voice cool and measured, scanning him from head to toe. Marcus nodded casually, but Lisa's polite demeanor began to slip. She explained that their inventory catered to a specific clientele, implying he might not belong. Without hesitation, she suggested pre-qualification or a referral to a more budget-friendly dealership. Marcus, calm and composed, noted her assumptions but chose to continue observing, his curiosity piqued by her unspoken judgment. Lisa's polite mask began to crack as her tone became increasingly dismissive. She glanced again at Marcus's hoodie and sneakers, her posture stiffening as she subtly tried to maintain an air of professionalism. "Perhaps I can recommend something more practical," she said, her voice laced with thinly veiled doubt. "We have a selection of pre-owned vehicles that might suit your needs." She gestured toward a stack of brochures on the nearby counter, each advertising older models with modest price tags. Marcus raised an eyebrow but kept his demeanor calm. "That's quite the assumption," he remarked, his voice steady, though the weight of her judgment wasn't lost on him. Lisa hesitated briefly, her forced smile tightening. "I'm just trying to save you some time," she replied, quickly adding, "These vehicles are more accessible and reliable for most customers." Her words, though framed as helpful, were unmistakably condescending. Lisa continued, suggesting directions to another dealership that specializes in budget-friendly options, reinforcing her belief that Marcus did not belong in the luxury showroom. Despite her dismissive attitude, Marcus maintained his composure. He nodded slightly and replied, "I appreciate the effort, but what would you recommend for someone like me?" His question caught her off guard, and for a moment, her polished confidence faltered. "Maybe something more economical," she said hesitantly, as if she was piecing together an acceptable response. Marcus couldn't help but notice the tension in her voice and the unspoken biases driving her assumptions. Folding his arms, he leaned back slightly, silently observing how Lisa was revealing far more about the dealership's culture than she realized. Lisa's dismissive attitude remained steadfast as Marcus continued to browse the luxury vehicles. She watched him carefully, her polite facade growing thinner with each passing moment. When Marcus admired a sleek silver coupe, she swiftly approached, her tone clipped. "Please refrain from touching the vehicles unless you're ready to make a serious inquiry," she said, her words more directive than courteous. Marcus paused, his hand hovering over the car door. He stepped back and turned to Lisa, his expression calm yet firm. "All right," he said evenly. "Let's hear it. What would you recommend for someone like me?" His question carried a pointed undertone, but Lisa either missed it or chose to ignore it. Instead, she replied with a suggestion that Marcus consider more accessible options and even offered to provide directions to a nearby dealership specializing in pre-owned vehicles. Marcus raised an eyebrow, still composed. "You're making a lot of assumptions," he remarked, his voice steady. Lisa hesitated for a moment, regaining her composure with a tight smile. "I'm just being honest," she said. "It's better to be upfront than to waste anyone's time." Her words hung in the air, a silent judgment that Marcus didn't belong in this luxury setting. Honest, Marcus repeated thoughtfully, then smiled faintly. I like honesty. In that case, how about I speak with the owner? Think you can make that happen? Lisa blinked, caught off guard by his direct request. She hesitated before replying. The owner isn't available for casual visits. They're a very busy person. Marcus nodded slightly, his tone casual yet purposeful. I'm sure they are. But maybe you could give them a call and let them know I'm here. I think they'd want to meet me. Her polite demeanor began to unravel as her frustration grew. Look, sir, she said, her voice carrying a sharp edge. If you're not serious about buying a car, I'll have to ask you to leave. I have other customers to attend to. Marcus's expression didn't waver. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. No problem, he said lightly, scrolling through his contacts. I'll make the call myself. Lisa's brow furrowed as she watched him dial. Around them, a few employees stopped what they were doing, their attention drawn to the unfolding scene. Marcus held up a finger, signaling for Lisa to wait. Yeah, it's me, he said into the phone. I'm at the dealership. Everything's fine, just a little misunderstanding. Can you let them know I'm here? Ending the call, Marcus slipped the phone back into his pocket. He turned to Lisa, his tone light but purposeful. They'll be here shortly. Lisa stared at him, her confidence visibly faltering. Who did you just call? She asked, her voice tinged with unease. Marcus didn't answer directly, glancing around the showroom instead. Guess we'll find out, he said, a faint, knowing smile on his lips. The showroom buzzed with quiet murmurs as the tension in the air grew thick. Marcus stood calmly near one of the luxury SUVs, hands in his pockets, his demeanor composed as ever. Lisa, on the other hand, was clearly struggling to maintain her composure, her clipboard clutched tightly against her chest. She kept stealing uncertain glances toward Marcus, clearly unsettled by his casual confidence and the mystery of his phone call. The sound of the front doors opening broke the uneasy silence. A sharply dressed man in a navy suit entered the room, his polished shoes clicking softly against the tile floor. His posture was confident and his expression, though serious, carried a warmth that immediately drew attention. The man scanned the room before his eyes locked on Marcus. A wide smile spread across his face as he approached. Mr. Bennett, the man said, extending a hand with genuine enthusiasm. It's great to see you. The room seemed to freeze as the words hung in the air. Marcus returned the handshake with a firm grip, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips. Thanks for coming, Alex. I appreciate it. Lisa's clipboard nearly slipped from her grasp as her eyes darted back and forth between Marcus and Alex. Her face turned pale, the dawning realization hitting her like a freight train. She stammered, struggling to find her voice. Mr. Bennett, she echoed, her tone a mix of disbelief and confusion. Alex turned to her, his professional smile slipping into a more curt, businesslike expression. Yes, Lisa. I see you've already met Mr. Bennett. His tone carried an unmistakable edge of formality. He's the new owner of Elite Autos. Lisa's jaw dropped slightly, her face flushing red with embarrassment. I didn't realize, she began, but Alex cut her off, his voice sharp. You didn't realize he was the new owner? Alex asked, arching an eyebrow. Or did you simply make assumptions based on his appearance? Lisa's mouth opened and closed as though searching for the right words, but none came. The weight of her actions seemed to settle heavily on her shoulders as she stepped back, clutching her clipboard like a lifeline. Marcus raised a hand to Alex, signaling for him to stop. It's all right, Alex, he said calmly, his voice measured and steady. I think Lisa and I just got off on the wrong foot. The words were gentle, but there was a weight to them that filled the room. Everyone, Lisa, the staff, and even Alex seemed to hold their breath. Marcus turned his gaze back to Lisa, his expression unreadable. I'd like to know, Lisa, he began, his tone soft but firm. If I hadn't been the owner, would you have treated me any differently? Lisa's face turned an even deeper shade of red. I didn't mean, she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus tilted his head slightly, his calm gaze unwavering. Didn't mean what? He asked. Didn't mean to assume that someone like me doesn't belong here. Or didn't mean to show me less respect than someone who walks in wearing a suit and tie. The silence in the room was deafening. Lisa opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Her silence spoke volumes, and Marcus nodded as if her lack of an answer was all the confirmation he needed. Turning back to Alex, Marcus's voice carried a newfound authority. Let's gather everyone in the conference room, he said. I think it's time we had a discussion about how things are run around here. Alex nodded immediately. Of course, Mr. Bennett. The staff began filing into the sleek, glass-walled conference room, their expressions ranging from nervous curiosity to outright embarrassment. Lisa lingered at the back, her usual confident demeanor replaced with visible unease. Marcus stood at the head of the table, his presence commanding the attention of everyone in the room. Alex took a position near the door, his arms crossed, watching the scene unfold. Marcus cleared his throat, and the murmurs of the staff died down instantly. "Thank you all for joining me on such short notice," he began, his tone calm but resolute. "For those of you who don't know me, my name is Marcus Bennett. As of last month, I'm the new owner of Elite Autos." The announcement caused a ripple of surprise through the room. A few employees exchanged nervous glances, while others simply stared down at their hands. Lisa sat near the back, her flushed face a stark contrast to her usual composed appearance. "I came here today dressed casually for a reason," Marcus continued. "I wanted to see how this dealership operates when no one knows who I am, to experience what a potential customer might feel when they walk through these doors." He paused, letting the words sink in before continuing. "What I experienced was disappointing. I was judged not for who I am or what I could bring to the table, but for how I looked. And while I'm not here to single anyone out, we need to have an honest conversation about what this says about the culture of this dealership." Marcus's gaze swept across the room, briefly landing on Lisa before moving to the group as a whole. "This isn't just about me," he said firmly. "It's about every person who walks through those doors. Every customer who doesn't fit into someone's preconceived notion of what a luxury car buyer looks like." Lisa shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Marcus addressed her directly. "Lisa," he said, his voice softening slightly, "do you have anything you'd like to say?" All eyes turned to Lisa. Her voice was barely audible when she finally spoke. I made a mistake," she admitted. "I misjudged you, and for that, I'm truly sorry." Marcus nodded, his expression thoughtful but unreadable. "Thank you for saying that," he replied. "I hope this experience serves as a reminder not just for you, but for all of us. Change starts with accountability." The sleek conference room, with its glass walls and modern decor, felt unusually tense as the staff filed in. Marcus stood at the head of the table, his posture calm but commanding. Alex leaned against the door, arms crossed, observing the employees as they took their seats. Lisa sat near the back, uncharacteristically quiet, her usual confident demeanor replaced by visible unease. Marcus cleared his throat, and the quiet murmurs immediately ceased. His steady gaze swept across the room as he began. "Thank you all for joining me on short notice," he said, his voice even but resolute. "For those of you who don't know, my name is Marcus Bennett, and as of last month, I'm the new owner of Elite Autos." A ripple of surprise ran through the room. A few employees shifted uncomfortably, their reactions a mix of curiosity and embarrassment. Lisa avoided eye contact, staring intently at her folded hands on the table. Marcus continued, his tone unwavering. "I came here today dressed casually for a reason. I wanted to see how this dealership operates when no one knows who I am, to experience what a customer might feel walking through these doors." He paused for a moment, allowing his words to settle before continuing. "What I experienced was disappointing. I was judged not for who I am or what I bring to the table, but for how I looked. And that's not just about me. It's about every single person who walks through these doors." His gaze shifted to Lisa briefly before returning to the group. "We cannot allow assumptions about someone's appearance, background, or demeanor to dictate how we treat them. This is a luxury dealership, yes, but true excellence is not just about the cars we sell. It's about the experience we provide, an experience built on respect, inclusivity, and fairness." One of the younger sales associates raised his hand hesitantly. Marcus nodded toward him, inviting him to speak. "Mr. Bennett," the employee began nervously, "I think most of us try to treat customers fairly. But sometimes, well, it's hard not to make assumptions." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "I understand," he said. "Bias is a part of being human, but it's not enough to simply try. We need to actively challenge those biases and create an environment where every customer feels valued regardless of how they look or what they wear." He let the message sink in before continuing. "This dealership has built a reputation for excellence, but that reputation isn't just about the vehicles we sell. It's about how we treat people. From today forward, we're going to lead by example. Respect, fairness, and inclusivity will be the foundation of this business." His eyes once again landed on Lisa, whose flushed face betrayed her discomfort. "This isn't about singling anyone out," Marcus said, addressing the group as a whole. "It's about holding ourselves accountable and ensuring we build a culture we can all be proud of." The room fell silent as Marcus's words resonated with the staff. For the first time, the tension began to shift into a sense of shared purpose, a realization that change was both necessary and achievable. As the room settled into a heavy silence, Marcus turned his attention to Lisa. "Lisa," he said gently but firmly, "I want to give you the opportunity to speak. Is there anything you'd like to say?" All eyes shifted to Lisa, whose hands were tightly clasped in her lap. Her voice was quiet and shaky when she finally spoke. I made a mistake," she admitted, her face flushed with embarrassment. "I misjudged you, and for that, I'm truly sorry. I didn't mean to treat anyone unfairly, but I realize now how my actions came across." Marcus nodded, his expression thoughtful yet firm. "Thank you for acknowledging that," he said, "but an apology isn't enough. Accountability is where real change begins." He addressed the team as a whole, his voice steady and authoritative. "Moving forward, we're implementing mandatory inclusivity and bias awareness training for every employee. This isn't about punishment, it's about growth. Everyone deserves to walk into this dealership and feel respected, whether they're a customer or a member of our team." His gaze swept across the room. "We have the opportunity to set a new standard here, a culture of fairness and respect that defines who we are. That starts today." The team nodded in quiet agreement, the weight of his words settling over them. Marcus stood at the head of the conference table, his calm yet commanding presence filling the room. The staff sat quietly, their attention fixed on him. "Let me make something clear," he began, his tone measured but resolute. "I didn't come here today to humiliate anyone. I came to understand the culture I've inherited and figure out how we can make it better." He glanced briefly at Lisa, who still sat near the back, her hands nervously twisting in her lap, before addressing the group as a whole. "I believe in second chances," Marcus continued. "People can learn and grow, but accountability must come first. A mistake is only a mistake if you're willing to learn from it and do better moving forward." The team nodded slightly, the weight of his words settling over them. Marcus shifted his stance, leaning slightly against the table. "Starting today, we'll be making changes. Inclusivity and respect will be the foundation of everything we do here. That means mandatory training to help us recognize and challenge our biases, and ongoing conversations to ensure that this dealership becomes a place where every customer feels valued." He straightened, his gaze firm but encouraging. "We're not just selling cars, we're building trust and creating relationships. That requires fairness, respect, and professionalism at every level. If you're on board with this vision, I'm here to support you every step of the way." The staff murmured their agreement, a sense of determination beginning to replace the earlier tension. Marcus nodded, his tone softening. "Change isn't easy, but it's necessary, and I'm confident we can make this place better together." As the staff began filing out of the conference room, Lisa lingered near the door, her usual confidence replaced with nervous hesitation. Taking a deep breath, she approached Marcus, her clipboard clutched tightly to her chest. "Mr. Bennett," she began, her voice low and uncertain, "I just wanted to thank you for giving me a chance to do better." Marcus turned to face her, his expression calm but unreadable. Lisa continued, her tone earnest. "I realize I made a serious mistake today, and I'm truly sorry for how I treated you. I let my assumptions cloud my judgment, and I know I have a lot to learn. I promise I won't let you down." Marcus regarded her quietly for a moment before replying, his voice steady. "I hope you mean that, Lisa. Words are important, but actions speak louder. If you're serious about making changes, I believe people can grow if they're willing to try." Lisa nodded, her eyes earnest. "I am," she said, determination clear in her voice. Marcus gave her a slight nod before she stepped away, a renewed sense of purpose evident in her demeanor. It was clear she was committed to making amends. As Marcus stepped back into the showroom, the sunlight reflecting off the sleek cars, he took a moment to reflect on the day. This wasn't just about running a dealership, it was about creating a space where people were valued for who they were, not how they looked. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but the commitment to change was clear. Under his leadership, Allight Autos would become more than a luxury car dealership. It would stand as a model of respect, fairness, and inclusivity.